All right, so today I want to talk about the unlimited number of courses that seem to exist online or offline, books, YouTube, Udemy, Coursera, EDX, all of these resources. And whenever you want to learn something new, it seems like we spend so much time, at least I do, just trying to find like the right course, the right technology. Oh, what should I learn? Should it be Python? Okay, or it should be C++ if I'm going towards game programming, or something towards that is a little more complex, because all of a sudden you want to be, I want to do the hardest thing first so that I can get all the easier things done later. Like, that mentality exists among some people. None of these are wrong, right? Yes, there are complex languages and tools and processes, back end, front end, mobile development. There's technologies that are used. And there might be simple, what they call CRUD, create, read, update, delete, or whatever, applications, or it could be something as as complicated as high frequency trading. The platforms, the technologies that the traders are using, just developing that, the algorithms behind that. So the world of applications is very deep, but where do you start? And one thing I'll say is that yes, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot to choose from, but it really just makes sense to actually just start with um, anything that seems palatable, like anything that you think you can digest. Watch a few minutes or maybe up to an hour of somebody's videos on YouTube for free, and just see, hey, where is this taking you? Do you think you're getting actually actionable information? Is it just somebody spewing information at you? If it's is it just somebody that's saying, well, let me just do this for a second, and I'll get back to it later, or and they never get back to it, or they don't explain it in a way that you think makes much sense? Then make a note of that. Make a note of that and say, you know what? Yeah, this isn't taking me too far. But one thing I'll say this, right? That sometimes people think that the source is no good. The presenter is no good, the material is not presented well, it's too basic or too advanced. What about the guy in the middle? I don't need to know all the basics, I don't need to go too far deep, I just need to, I want actionable work that I can do right here, without being employed. Because there, when you get a job, you're going to have all these different tools, and you're going to have different processes and guidelines on what to do. The technology is all the same, right? The languages won't change. The Python you learn right here won't be any different from the Python you use at work, right? But there will be guidelines for how to, implement it, and how to structure your language, for example. Code, and there's going to be code reviews, and that's just the programming side of it. And I'm sure there are many different design documents for user experience. I'm not a user experience guy, but user experience, graphical interfaces, even the language, if it's a an application that engages with the customer, and you need to ask the customer questions, right? That's not even a programmer's job, right? You'll get material that you need to display to a user. I'm sure there are departments that vet and look at the language, right? There's a whole marketing world behind, what you should say, and how you should gather data, and what to make of what it is that you're gathering, right? There's a whole big storm about this, whether it's, privacy, or just, straight up asking you questions during some kind of a forum or an application. So what I'm saying is that, whatever course it is, whether it's a programming class, learning a new tool, or just, trying to increase your skill, don't spend hours and days and weeks, and if not years, and yes, this will happen to some people, years, trying to find the best resource to learn from. In some ways, sometimes I think universities are actually kind of good in that way. You get locked in, yeah, of course you can transfer out, and you can, drop out and all that stuff. But for the most part, people do tend to stick with it. And you hear college, students complain about, a certain professor, a certain class, a whole semester. Like, people will say, man, this whole semester was terrible. right? Or they'll say this whole class was terrible. Like, well, like what? This is irrelevant to me. That has happened many times. But because you're kind of stuck in it, you have to push through it. Like you have to submit the homeworks, and you have to take the midterms, and you have to do the final, maybe the presentation or the project, and it very well may be irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But I think that whole actionable item of just finishing what you started is so meaningful, because at the end of the day, or semester, year, a college course, it takes you to a goal, which is the completion of something. Of course, if every class turns out to be as irrelevant and as useless as that particular class, whatever that may be, yeah, of course that's terrible. But that's how you learn, right? Sometimes when you pick a wrong, tool for the job, just by trying to learn, whether it's by use or by guidelines or just a tutorial, you kind of get a feel for whether or not it's the right thing to do, or if it's the right tool, if it's the right technology, if it's even the right field for you. Actually, sometimes you can get that experience by engaging in it. So my recommendation is that once you get a general idea of something, that may be good because it exists, in multiple forms. For example, the CS50 class for programming, from Harvard X is you'll see that it's been available for years, right? There's one professor that's common amongst them all, but you'll see many other TAs are joining in, and there's so much material out there, and there's so many people talking about this thing. I would recommend that to anybody, right? And if you think you already have enough, knowledge, and that you can skip some of the stuff, what I recommend is check out their assignments and try to do them. Try to do the assignments without taking the classes if you think the classes are too basic. If you can knock out those assignments, and that's the thing. You got to invest a little bit of time to figure out where you're really at. Otherwise, how will you know, right? It's like the best meal on earth. It might look good, but unless you take a bite out of it, you don't know if it tastes good, right? It might look good, it might not taste good, and that's how I see classes sometimes, and your skill set. Take a few, invest a few hours of your time, get the material, and then do some of the assignments and see how well you're doing. You will know yourself how well you're doing. It's like you go for a run sometimes. And yeah, you'll start catching your breath, after about, like, I don't know, 2 minutes of running, you're out of shape. You know what I mean? So I see that it's no different for this either. Okay, so I probably said a lot. So my recommendation is, yeah, there are a lot of courses, a lot of material. There's a lot to choose from, and you get analysis paralysis from just, hey, where do I even start? I say stop worrying about all these things. Okay, if you want to be a programmer, the general ideas that have an understanding of basic programming principles, and you'll find that from so many different resources. It's unbelievable what's available, today. And just stick to one, and push through it, even if it seems unreasonable. And if you feel that you have enough knowledge that you don't have to push through it, again, now you know enough, and you don't have to waste your time further. Go find something else, or start implementing. And when you run into a problem, that's when you start looking for a solution for that particular problem. All right. And I'm sure that the idea is not too different in other fields. Feel free to share any of your comments. I'd like to hear from you, see some ideas and bounce off some ideas, and maybe others can also interact with your comments as to the best ways to get started and best ways to do something. Anyway, catch you next video. Thank you for watching. Take care.